Members of the J area, what is going on? It's a Monday night, so you know I have to recap a post-show reaction to Monday Night Raw. Obviously, as you can tell, I have my 49er gear. We had a big win against the New York Jets for Monday Night Football. But tonight, and the reason why you're watching this video, is for our reaction to Monday Night Raw. We just saw in the main event, it was Jey Uso, Ilya Dragunov, Braun Strowman, and Pete Dunne competing in a fatal four-way matchup to determine the new number one contender for Braun Breaker's Intercontinental Championship, a matchup that we suspect will be taking place at the next premium live event, Bad Blood. Now, in typical Jose fashion, I correctly predicted the winner of that match because I just think in terms of story, it makes the most sense. We've been hinting at Braun Breaker versus Jey Uso. We've had these little interactions during these backstage segments where Braun Breaker continuously begins to poke at Jey Uso, saying, "No one in your family has ever been anybody in my family," and that's not going to change. Braun Breaker, who's been on a great run, a lot of momentum heading his way, especially since defeating Sami Zayn for that Intercontinental Championship at the SummerSlam event. And what better way to capitalize on that by having him have a match against one of the hottest superstars in the WWE right now, Jey Uso. It should be a fantastic match, but we're talking about the Fatal 4-Way, a matchup that had a high offense, great intensity, a lot of athleticism displayed between the four athletes that were involved. We even had a little run-in by Bronson Reed, so that was always fun to see, especially seeing Braun Strowman going through the table. But nonetheless, Jey Uso, like I said, would emerge victorious. It'll be curious to see how we, incorporate his storyline with Braun Breaker, as well as the ongoing issue with the Judgment Day. We know that Jey Uso has been interjecting himself within Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley's business in regards to Finn Balor, Dominic, and company. But nonetheless, it was a good matchup. Great way to end the show. And I talked about the Judgment Day, so let's go ahead and jump right into that. The Judgment Day, a lot of drama surrounding them. We have two announced matches for the Bad Blood event. We know that'll be the Women's World Championship as Liv Morgan defends her title against Rhea Ripley. Again, another matchup with a lot of expectation. Great build to it, great storyline. Two of the best women's wrestlers in the division. I suspect it should be a great match. I suspect that all these matches should deliver in some form, and it wouldn't be the only matchup that was announced regarding the Judgment Day for Bad Blood, as it would also see Finn Balor going one-on-one with Damian Priest. Bad Blood is certainly shaping up to have a lot of matches centered around just bitter feuds. Whether it is the Judgment Day stuff going on, we know obviously what's going on with Punk and McIntyre. We'll get into that, as well as the Braun and Jey Uso stuff going on. I enjoy when a PLE has so many intricate storylines and just feuds with valid reasons and weight to them. If a match itself doesn't have a lot of weight and meaning to it, how am I supposed to get invested into it? Obviously, there is that level of interest based on who's involved and their abilities, their athleticism, and whatnot. But when you add on top of that a layer of story and reasons why I should get invested, say no more, right? We know the Judgment Day had a lot to go on in this episode of Monday Night Raw. We saw Dominic Mysterio get a victory over Dragon Lee. We also saw Finn Balor lose a matchup to Rey Mysterio due to a disqualification where he would not adhere to the 5 count of the official. Really, I think, showcasing him as a threat, as a heel to that of a Damian Priest. I know that there's a big size difference between the two, but we want to be able to portray Finn Balor as this menacing heel who not only doesn't abide by the rules, but doesn't care, right? I won't get into the Bad Blood matchups here, obviously, because I want to be able to, support and also produce them in a future video when it comes to predictions to each matchup revolving around the Bad Blood event, but also coincidentally involving Bad Blood, the American-made group versus the Wyatt Six. We had a street fight to open up the show. A fun matchup there. I love these multi-person matches, especially given that we had talents like Nikki Cross, Dexter Lumis, Eric Rowan, Joe Gacy on one side, and on the other side we had Ivy Nile, the Creed brothers, and of course Chad Gable. We saw table spots, a lot of chair shots, garbage cans, kendo sticks, just a free-for-all and a chaotic way to begin Monday Night Raw. Great showing. We obviously saw the win by the Wyatt Six. I don't know if this is going to be the conclusion of the feud. If you ask me, I think we might get one more showing between Chad Gable and Uncle Howdy. Although we've already had that, that happened in the past. I feel like that's the crux of the issue. It's Uncle Howdy and Chad Gable. That I think would be the next matchup and ultimately the last matchup involved in this story. Another one that I really want to talk on too, real quickly here. We had an appearance by Bret the Hitman Hart, obviously, Monday Night Raw, emanated from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, the home country of Bret Hart, who's one of the greatest Canadian wrestlers, but one of the greatest wrestlers of all time in general. He had a little interaction in the ring with Joe Tessitore, excuse me, and Wade Barrett that was interrupted by the world champion Gunther. Great little interaction between the two. We had Gunther, sharing a little bit of barbs with Bret Hart, as he would refer to him as his second favorite wrestler growing up. Only second to Bill Goldberg, which I thought was a great shout out to Bill Goldberg, and also a reference to that bitter feud between the two. As of course, if you're not aware, Bret Hart still holds some bitter feelings towards Bill Goldberg, as there was a matchup in the late 90s, early 2000s, where Bill Goldberg hit a super kick, a thrust kick rather, on Bret Hart, giving him a concussion, resulting in a severe post concussion, and would ultimately end the career of Bret Hart. So, not to get too much into detail over that, but I thought it was a great interaction. I suspected that we would have Bret involved in the Punk McIntyre storyline. We didn't. We had him here, which is a great placeholder as well, because Sami Zayn, another one of Canada's favorite sons, would come out and defend Bret Hart and also reissue that challenge to Gunther, although Gunther, once again, would deny him. We're getting that sense that Gunther believes he's just elite over Sami Zayn. He's not on his level, which is ironic because Sami Zayn was the one to defeat Gunther for that Intercontinental Championship. I will continue to say that because I love the matchup, love the outcome, and I'm a big fan of Sami Zayn. I want to see the matchup. Obviously, we're building towards something here. I think it's eventually going to be set for Bad Blood as well. Gunther defending the title against Sami Zayn, but to have Sami Zayn up next to Bret Hart, giving him that rub, really helps his credibility when you have one of the greatest of all time defending one of the best today. So Sami Zayn and Gunther had a great showing. Really looking forward to it. They even got physical too, which was great. We get to see a little physicality between the two, making the fans want more and just leaving them with a taste of what this matchup can be. Although we did see it at WrestleMania 40, it's now taken up another notch here to another level, to take a word from Gunther there, as it will be for the world title. But the main reason why I wanted to talk about this post-show reaction in regards to Monday Night Raw is my favorite storyline going on Raw right now, and that's Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. If you watched last week's Monday Night Raw and last week's post-show reaction, you would know that CM Punk was viciously attacked by Drew McIntyre to the point where he chased him back to the backstage area where they were loading him up in an ambulance, and Drew McIntyre prevented that from happening as he would continue to beat down the straight edge superstar to the point where CM Punk wasn't even in attendance today for Monday Night Raw. It was just Drew McIntyre solo, addressing the crowd, talking to them, and then really focusing his eyes on his close friend Wade Barrett, because he was saying that you were in my way. You were one of the guys that were supposed to understand and support me and what's going on here. But instead you were trying to prevent me from, beating up my most, hated rival. And he focused on Wade Barrett. We get Adam Pearce from the back to interrupt, and he makes the huge announcement that we will have one more matchup between the two, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, and it's all going to happen at the Bad Blood event inside Hell in a Cell. What better way to conclude this rivalry for the time being? I think we'll revisit, at some point in time, but just to put a little, stamp on this chapter of the storyline, it makes perfect sense to have the Hell in a Cell event. It is a matchup that was devised as a means to end feuds. You look at the early matches, it wasn't really something that was just thrown together last minute or was just a stipulation that you could apply to any matchup. It was intended for huge rivalries, feud enders, something that we would talk about for years to come. You look at the early ones: Undertaker versus Mankind, King of the Ring, 98. we had the No Way Out 2000 Cactus Jack versus Triple H, the Armageddon Hell in a Cell match, Undertaker versus Randy Orton, and of course, ironically, October 5th, 2024, CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre in the latest Hell in a Cell matchup falls on the very same day, October 5th, as the original Hell in a Cell matchup between The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. Very poetic. As they say, time is in a circular motion. It's always revolving around. I love the idea. I think it's perfect. We're going to get CM Punk in Portland, Oregon next week. Obviously, we're going to hear from his point of view as to having this matchup with Drew McIntyre. Again, I certainly think that this is going to be a feud ender. I don't see it going past, especially because we're going to head into Survivor Series, which will mark a year since CM Punk had returned. And I'm curious to see what they do moving forward. I think we're going to reintroduce Seth Rollins into the fold as a means to CM Punk. But that's all for next week. You know, we still have a lot to cover this week on WWE. We have NXT coming out, SmackDown in its first episode on the USA Network. A lot to look forward to and to cover on this channel. Of course, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. I want to thank you guys for stopping by, chatting with me about pro wrestling, chatting with me about Monday Night Raw. If you haven't already, make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it. Comment down below your thoughts on the Hell in a Cell matchup that will take place at Bad Blood. In fact, go ahead and comment down below what's your favorite Hell in a Cell match that you've seen in your lifetime. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Check out these videos that I've already posted in order to keep up to date with everything going on the J Area podcast as well. And with that being said, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. again, and I will see you all in the next one.